or investment strategies. Investments do involve risk, unless otherwise stated, is not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with your qualified financial advisor or tax professional before implementing any strategy therein. Past performance is not indicative of future performances.
You are listening to the home of Blue Devil Sports. This is Gate City Sports Radio. Sports Radio.
Back here live from the campus drive-in on Kane Street, downtown Gate City. Again, if you're out and about, come on by, see us, get something great to eat. Again, they do a great job here at the campus. So, Chris, it was an interesting week last week in Northeast Tennessee. Southwest Virginia had some upsets, some games that went off the rails early, some that went off late. Take us around Northeast Tennessee.
Well, there's really not as many games to report on as usual because East Tennessee was playing East Tennessee. So I've got 4 of them, though, I'd like to run by you if we've got time. First one I wanted to mention was Greenville and Science Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Science Hill scored 21 points in the first 10 minutes of the game. Then Greenville decided to get started. The final score wound up being Greenville 33, Science Hill 24. Greenville didn't take the lead until early in the fourth quarter, but it seems like once they did, that kind of took the wind out of Science Hill's sails, and Greenville was able to hold them off. They found a way to win the game, so now Science Hill's 1-3.
1-3, and they mentioned the 21-point comeback for Greenville. I think was maybe the second biggest in their school's history. I
don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Wouldn't confirm, but again,
against Science Hill, that's what blows my mind.
And we were talking about this following this game on Friday night, and was reporting and. Just really couldn't believe it because we saw Science Hill start to establish that lead, and then by the time we were off the air, that's whenever they started. Of course, there was some delays, and I know that the game started at 7:30. But anyway, yeah.
Well, this week Greenville they host Austin East out of Knoxville. I'm really not that familiar with that school, but knowing Greenville, I'm going to pick Greenville to win that game. Science Hill, it does not get any easier for them. They host Jefferson County this week, and Jeff County's been kind of a surprise this season. Back in the 80s and 90s, they were a dominant team in Tennessee, won a couple of state championships. Mm-hmm. They were the team to beat. Then they kind of dropped off a little bit. This year, they're kind of having a resurgence of sorts, so it should be a good game up there in Johnson City.
It's a good 6A conference. That's
it's pretty solid top to bottom this year.
That's pretty good. So again, of course, we're going to see the measuring stick of Dobbins-Bennett as they take on a Hardin Valley team that Science Hill throttled a couple weeks ago. So
at Hardin Valley,
Hardin Valley,
and it is Dobbins-Bennett homecoming.
Ooh.
So, moving along, the next game I wanted to mention was the Volunteer-Sullivan East game. Volunteer finally won that game, 24-21. The Falcons were down by 4 with 11:07 to go, and they managed to score the go-ahead to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. It seemed like each time that an update would come along, East would take the lead, then they extended a little bit, then Volunteer would come back, then East would come back. But Volunteer did manage to hang on. I found it very interesting that they made a change of quarterback during halftime. They went with senior Eli Dorton, so he comes out in the second half. All he does is rack up 106 yards passing. He went 5 for 5, carried the ball for 53 yards on 10 carries, and scored the last 2 times.
We talked about Eli being a senior. He came into the season as a starter, kind of lost that position. And of course, like I said, the resurgence. Maybe they righted the ship a little bit.
Well, he touched the ball 1 time in the first half.
Yeah.
So I think that was a good substitution on the coaching staff's part. East had a chance with under 5 minutes to play. They went for it on 4th and 7. Quarterback Dylan White got the pass off cleanly to Lake Mullins. The ball hit him possibly in the worst possible place, right in his hands.
Yep.
He was not able to hold on to it. Volunteer goes on to win. This week, it's the Battle of Hawkins County.
Big.
Volunteer goes to Cherokee. Cherokee is, if I'm not mistaken, on an 8-game win streak against Volunteer.
I think it's right.
That probably will continue this year, I believe. And East hosts Union County, and that's got the potential to be a really good game. Chucky Doak, probably the surprise of the night to me. They handed it to Sullivan North. Chucky Doak won 34-7. We saw the update, and Chucky Doak was ahead, and I think I made the comment Friday night, this is playing exactly in the North's hands because they've come from behind every game this year, but not Friday night. Chucky Doak senior Hayden Rush, well, I love that name. Just a great football name. Hayden Rush. He had 197 of them and 2 touchdowns, including a 98-yard fumble recovery for a score. That's deflating.
That kind of turned the tide. You know, they were showing the highlights WCYB, and that North was about to go in, like you said, and they when they fumbled. And from that point on, North could generate no offense.
Well, Rush managed to also return 2 punts for 54 yards, carried the ball twice, and made 3 receptions. So he had quite a night. Then he turned around, played a little defense, and broke up a 4th down pass from a defensive back. North had a 72-yard run by Austin Hartsock, but that was in the 4th quarter. The game was pretty much over at that point, but it did prevent a shutout. This week, North hosts South Green, so hopefully the Raiders can get things going in the right direction again, right that ship a little bit.
Jekyll and Hyde, you know, the games we thought they may struggle, they've done well. Again, against a good defensive team from Johnson County, went up on the mountain, got the win, then come back home. This is their first home game of the season and get blasted.
And honestly, if you can beat Johnson County
in
Mountain City, I don't know how in the world you managed to get beat that badly by Chucky Doak.
At home.
Whew. But anyway, the other game I wanted to make mention of was the Elizabeth and Boone game. Boone actually did make this respectable. I was expecting it to be more of a blowout with their injuries. Final score was Elizabethton 35, Boone 12. Cade Maupin had 2 touchdowns. Bryson Rollins threw for 2 more as Elizabethton took this win. Maupin wound up with 131 yards, including an 80-yard touchdown run in the 2nd quarter after Boone had closed to within 2. So they were able to stretch it out, and that kind of put the end to things. This week, Elizabethton hosts Granger, sort of.
Boom.
I think the T.A. Duggar 8th graders may be getting some playing time in this one.
Oh, my goodness.
And Boone faces off against Open Date. And if there's ever a team that needs an open date, I believe it's Boone this week.
They may need 2 or 3 in a row if they could get. Of course, Charlie Cole, they originally with his injury said it was a 6-week injury with a break, not only in his arm but into his wrist. Again, we wish him the best, but you know.
What's really bad about this is Boone was a really good team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of people were projecting them to do some damage this year, and then just like that, 3 starters are out hurt. And that's made a huge difference for them.
You know, they came out, you know, of course, they annihilated South at South to open the season. Of course, I know the first week it's hard to take a lot of fun. But anyway, and, you know, as you mentioned, you know, some other scores around Northeast Tennessee. Of course, Unicoi County blanked Happy Valley. You know, Happy Valley was undefeated. Unicoi up and down, 35-0. It wasn't even close.
I missed that one in the pick'em.
You know, it just was one of those kind of games that just and then Central went on the road to Pigeon Forge. You know, they hadn't scored 32 points in a game in, you know, recent memory. And they blasted Pigeon Forge 32-6, which was another kind of surprise from around here. So, and then, of course, if we go into Southwest Virginia, you know, of course, a lot of Tennessee's teams played Virginia teams, as we mentioned. I think there were 7 total. Of course, the South and Gate City game, South ended up winning 42-12. Tennessee High beat Virginia High 46-23. Of course, that earned Tennessee's highest quarterback a Player of the Week award. But again, that game was not close at all. Wasn't even 23-point close. Then, of course, we're talking about George Wythe and Marion. George Wythe, which we'll see in 2 weeks at George Wythe. They took care of Marion. Marion still winless on the season, and things don't get better for them as John Battle goes playing there this week. Grundy and Lebanon. Grundy was up big, 36-6, I believe. Lebanon scored 20 unanswered in the second half to make it a little bit closer. But again, that game went to the Golden Wave.
How about that Twin Springs team putting up 48, wasn't it, against North Green?
48-12 at North. You know, they were running wild in Greenville. Again, the Titans at 2-1 now on the season. They beat Northwood, of course, week 1, so they've doubled their win totals from last year. Thomas Walker win on the road, a big Cumberland District win, knocked off Castlewood 14-12. Of course, as we mentioned before, the South and the Gate City and Tennessee High. Ridgeview took care of the previously undefeated Wise Central team, 41-20 in a game that wasn't close at all. Again, Adkins went over 1,000 yards in the ball game. Narrows ended the winning streak in the regular season that dated back all the way to 2017 for Chilhowie. Narrows knocked off Chilhowie 20-14 at home. J.I. Burton, we talked about them. If they can just get a little traction, they got it last week against Lehigh, 56-20. Again, they lit up the Generals at 5-star. Honaker knocked off Twin Valley, 54-14. Holston beat John Battle. One thing, Washington County, Virginia schools are required to play each other no matter their size.
I did not know that.
Yep, they a few years back. And that's how this game, because John Battle dropped Holston for a few years back in the late 90s, I believe it was.
That could really affect your strength of scheduling then.
Yeah. So, but again, Holston went and wrecked homecoming night on Battle Hill. Again, Holston came in, took care of business, 18-13. So that wraps up Southwest Virginia.
I believe also, though, we forgot to mention my Patrick Henry Rebels.
No.
They had them a big win, didn't they?
On the road, they went to Hurley and took care of the other Rebels. You know, Hurley, a very, very physical football team. They just don't have the speed to keep up with Patrick Henry. Game was pretty close throughout the first half. Patrick Henry had enough to double them up in the second half. Again, 40-20 was the final there. Pulaski County took care of business against Abingdon, 49-0. And, you know, nothing disparaging against the Falcons. Of course, they play who they play. They play all these 2A. They're the biggest team in Southwest Virginia. They're the only 3A, and they beat up on all these 2As. Well, when they step into 3A competition, things change a little bit for the Falcons.
That was the same issue that Dobyns-Bennett had for years and years and years, is they would play these smaller schools around here. Then they would hit the Knoxville schools in the playoffs and not know how to react against it. So Tennessee kind of expanded out the conferences a little bit, and I think that's helped Dobyns-Bennett up their play.
Yeah, you know, that's, even though I know that for athletic directors, you want to see crowds. You want to, you know, if you're traveling to volunteer, you know, it's pretty close, or if you're going to Sullivan East and, you know, the home fields and the revenue generated. But, yeah, whenever they start playing into their classifications, it's better football, and, you know, we saw that evident. And, of course, Pulaski County took care of Abington, which they host, or, excuse me, Abington goes back on the road this week for a game that's in our pick and panel. Again, folks, you can follow this, and that will be posted on Friday. They go to Richlands, 0-2 Richlands as well. So that'll be a big ball game, which, of course, we'll talk a little more about that on the Friday night show as we get you ready for Ridgeview and Gate City on Friday night. So we'll take another break, come back. We've got Tweet It or Delete It. We've got other Gate City sports. We've got Gate City football players coming. So we've got a lot of things going on. Again, you're listening to the home of Blue Devil Sports. This is Gate City Sports Radio.
A proud supporter of local athletics, the law office of Jesse Walker McMurray is a local firm dedicated to serving the people of Southwest Virginia and specializing in real estate, wills, trust, and estate planning. Contact Jesse McMurray at 276-690-0773. That's 276-690-0773. They are located in downtown Gate City, across from the courthouse at 191 West Jackson Street, Suite 301. If you or a loved one is being discharged from the hospital and in need of rehabilitation, then look no further than Nova Health and Rehab, a 4-star facility in Weber City, Virginia. They offer a wide variety of services, including skilled nursing, physical, occupational, speech therapies, and outpatient services as well. Tell your doctor or case manager at the hospital that you want to go to Nova Health and Rehab Center, where you will find a home-like environment during your stay. Please call 276-477-5640. Again, that's 276-477-5640. Nova Health and Rehab is a Sabre Healthcare Group facility.
You are listening to the home of Blue Devil Sports. This is Gate City Sports Radio.
Back here live from the Campus Drive-In on King Street in Gate City. All right, so every week we talk about Tweet It or Delete It, things that a lot of times they'll say to when you write things and don't send it, or think about it before you hit the press, or before you press the word send. So here are 5 things that we've typed.
Oh, I'm sorry, Judge. Say something. I was tweeting.